actually literally just recording a podcast this afternoon, episode 8, I think. So
Nice.
I'm not too far ahead. I've got to get a little bit farther ahead. I like having a little bit of a gap just so I can take a break here and there. But anyway,
Yeah.
um, um, but it was the theme is around, trying to make the most of relationships, you know, and for as long as that person is in your life. And that could be obviously, you've got your sister as an example, right? She's been
Yeah.
around for a long time, and so that's an easy one to think of. I'm going to make the most of, right? Now, maybe you've got a best friend or something to that
Mm.
effect, just someone you've known for a while, right? A number of years, for instance, right? And that would be somebody that you can think of as, okay, yeah, there's whenever we get together, it's a good time, or, I do a lot with them or whatever. Now, maybe you've got somebody that you just met 6 months or a year ago, right? And all of
Yeah.
those things that, in my mind, at least, they all kind of fall into this person. Okay, I've got a pretty long standing, somewhat established relationship with them, right? But I also feel like there's something to be said for the person that you sit next to at the bar, you know?
Yeah.
And I mean, maybe you don't bare your soul to them next necessarily, right? But can you treat that person with the same level of um, seeing them, right? With that
Yeah.
same level of, that I don't know who that person is. I have no idea, right? I mean, that could be the first time I speak to them and we become the best friends, or I might not ever see them again, or something in between. I don't know. I mean, the first time I met my wife, I didn't know who she'd become.
Yeah.
I mean, who
Yeah.
knows? I don't know. The guy that I've known one of the longest in my entire life, for a time I called him my best friend. We're still friends. I kicked him in the balls the first time I met him. He pissed me off that bad. And yet 35 years later, we're still friends. So it's like, I certainly didn't think he would be the guy that I would still call a friend 35 years. I didn't think he'd be a guy I would call a friend three
Yeah.
days later, let alone 35 years later. Right. So it's like, you don't know who you're talking to, right? And
Yeah.
so you don't know what they're going through and you don't know where they're at and you don't know anything, And
Yeah.
so it feels to me like, at least where I'm at these days, it's like, be real with people. And if a
Yeah.
conversation comes up, or be open to a conversation coming up, or look, sometimes people just want to talk football or whatever, or don't for that matter. But if there's an opportunity and an opening, or a word is said somewhere, or there's a moment to offer a kind word, or a bit of wisdom or something,
Yeah.
if it feels appropriate and it feels like you've got something to say, or there's an opening there, or whatever it is, it feels to me like, I don't want to leave that coffee shop or that bar or that restaurant or that park or whatever the place is, thinking, I could have done something,
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's so interesting to feel. It feels like you have a real strong inner kind of guidance, which is kind of cool around that in a way to me feels like kind of a witnessing of the recognition of our unity kind of and oneness, like that the value of this person is as great as that one thing is connected to another, that
Yeah.
we aren't alone in a sense. And that's what I feel when I hear you speak. So it's nice to hear that, because I think it even carries through your voice and just how you try to communicate. And so I'm listening to what you're saying, and I'm thinking about my relationships, because oftentimes, and this is maybe something for me to be with, I throw away opportunity in a huge way, and in the everyday. So you're like, it's easy for you to think about how, people every day are important. And I throw away that opportunity of really kind of allowing them to be the gift that they are. That's what I'm hearing is I can allow them to be the gift that they are, and opening myself to receive that and to be that in their life too.
Yeah, it's both ways. Yeah.
Yeah. And I can allow that opening more and more in my life. So that's what I'm hearing for me.
Yeah.
Because sometimes when I meet a new person, wow, I'm seeing this so interesting because I see when I meet someone new, this thought in my head of what can be, like what could be. And it is, it, well, I see two things. Sometimes I see people meet someone new and I just enjoy kind of the acknowledgement of kind of getting to know and honoring who they are. But there's another voice that occurs, and that other voice is like, this is interesting because I just embraced this. I just embraced. And the thing that I ask, and the question that I'm hearing now is, what can they give to me? What kind of what can I take advantage of that they know that I don't know, or that they can give that I don't know? It's kind of like it feels like, oh, I'm going to eat, I'm going to get something here. I'm going to get something, right? And like, it's kind of funny that I'm hearing that because today I really just embraced the one that the one that takes advantage of people, the one that devalues people. So both of those things, I feel the presence there in that attitude. So it's kind of interesting that all of this is kind of coming up, like that voice or that energy, I'm being able to hear it, and I'm like, oh wow, okay.
That hits closer to home than you think, right? It really does. For a lot of my life, my I had still is something that is there that I have to work with, right? But there's been a lot of lack, scarcity stuff, right?
Yeah.
A lot of it came from my dad, and you know, I didn't realize that's what it was, but that just felt natural. When that's what you live with, that's what you think is natural, right?
Yeah.
But so never felt like you had enough, never felt like, those types of things, right? And I remember throughout my life, there would be times when I wouldn't have something, or when I wanted something, or maybe there were times when we desperately needed something sometimes,
Yeah.
maybe money to pay a bill or something, whatever it was. And, um, for better or for worse, depending on how it's used, I suppose, or depending on not how it's used, but just depending on how, yeah, anyway, it seems like a lot of people seemed to want to help me out, right? There would be people, especially generally people who maybe had some kind of means. I'm not saying they were loaded, but maybe they were a little bit better off, and they would want to try to help me out. And somewhere along the way, I realized that, it was great when somebody would, oh, maybe they'd give me some money or they'd bless me, with a thing, whatever. It could have been a video game. It didn't have to be like something like mind blowing. It could have just been a thing that I really wanted or whatever. And I don't remember any one specific thing that made my brain connect the two. But I remember, somewhere over the years realizing that I just had this knack, if I wasn't careful, of like subtly manipulating, you know, saying that I was interested in a thing or that I needed a thing or that I wanted a thing and drop, whatever. And not like it wasn't like it would happen all the time, but it was not unusual to find somebody, oh yeah, let me help you out here. Let me give you this and let me bless you with that, or whatever, especially in the
Yeah.
church when the people want to bless you,
Oh,
brother, whatever, right? That kind of stuff. And, I found that it was very easy for me to stay in lack mode because I could just go find somebody to bless me, you know? And I'm not
yeah.
saying that's like how I survived or anything like that, but there was this, you know,
Yeah.
10, 15, 20 years ago, there was this like feeling of like, I'm not saying that it was wrong to need, and I'm not saying it's
Yeah.
wrong for people to help. But I knew that something about what I was doing felt a little dirty. And I wasn't like going out like, making my mark. Ooh, it's her. I'm going after her. But I knew that there was it had morphed so perfectly that I didn't even realize I was doing it half the time. Right.
Yeah.
I would just casually drop a conversation that, something, right? And,
Yeah.
it all came to a head at one point where, long story short, a friend offered to help us, um, where he wound up basically subsidizing a move, right? We had to move to a new area to get a job. And, I wound up being all too willing to let him help me out, right?
Hmm.
Um, and he wound up like having to give me like a healthy chunk of money to make up the difference between what the job was paying and what it cost us to survive. And
Hmm.
it wound up causing a rift in our relationship because I wasn't at the time willing to go get a second job because, well, he was paying. It was
Yeah.
fine. Now we hadn't really set up any boundaries here. There was a lot that we could have done better, but nonetheless, and it really hurt our relationship. It blew up in spectacular fashion. And at
Mm.
that time I realized, I was like, I can't keep doing this.
Yeah.
And it's not like I won't accept help if I need it. And it's not like I won't tell people when I have needs, but I've just learned to reframe it. If I'm interested in a thing or I want a thing, maybe I'm having an honest conversation with somebody about a thing that I would like or that I want to do, but that I haven't figured out how to do. I am now very careful to add things like, and I'm working on paying for it this way, right? So it's not like I'm saying like I'm leaving it
Yeah.
open, like, and if you, by the way, if you want to, because that was my trick. That was my
Yeah.
trick is I would act very cool and leave it open. Like, yeah, by the way, I need $250, whatever. And I've
Yeah.
made it, and I've just, that was a thing that I had to work on for a long time is to make sure that I am not subtly trying to manipulate people. And it was just I watched me do it and I didn't like what I saw myself doing, right? And then because then when someone gave me something, I felt dirty about them giving it to me, even though I liked
Yeah.
the money or the thing
Yeah.
or whatever it was.
Yeah. It's like we're playing these roles and I'm pretending to be the one who is unfortunate, but really I'm kind of taking advantage of you and I've learned how to do
Yeah,
so, and so it becomes interesting to be able to recognize that
yeah,
because some people don't get to they really are invested
yeah,
in the story that they are the one who's needing,
yeah.
you know, and sometimes it takes a really long time to like,
Well, I mean, that was like I said, that was me for a really long time. And so I've just tried to
yeah,
I mean, look, it's not like I haven't accepted help since then. I've just had to be
yeah,
really careful about how I frame it, how I ask for it, when I ask for it, whatever, and making sure that I'm doing it in a way that I know I'm not trying to be manipulative, right?
yeah, yeah,
And so, but I was for a long time looking at people sort of as what could, and look, even to this day, if I'm not careful and it still happens, I'm all like, I wonder if he might, I'm like, dude, what am I thinking here? It's just like, I mean, I'm not judging myself, but I mean, it's still a pattern that my brain will go, I don't act on it, but like I'll catch my brain even like sometimes looking at things or people or places or opportunity. Maybe this will turn into that, like what could this get for me, whatever, maybe somebody
yeah,
will offer that or this or the other thing, like my brain still goes there and I'm just and so I think trying to be able to I don't know,
No,
see people otherwise, you know. So
I
there's you were reading, you saw more there than you knew was there. I think, you know, there's a
yeah, oh
reason why
yeah.
you
Well,
saw that.
it's just what's coming through me.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
and I know that I have taken advantage of situations, many in my life. Even now, I know that I am, and it's nice to be able to love and kind of own and love these things that sometimes are hard to own, you
yeah,
know? And I'm feeling I'm feeling an opening in I mean, around my feeling of being empowered, my feeling of all these kinds of things. So it's interesting kind of when this is all coming up, the
yeah,
transition that I'm feeling is going through. But yeah, I'm looking forward to listening to that podcast. That will be good. But
yeah.
yeah,
That'll probably be a
yeah. I
couple
mean,
weeks before it comes out. But yeah,
for me, I mean, I think a key in this is, me and in my kind of inner declarations of my world, of my paradigm. It includes, really uniting with other people in love and light and truth and creating in in a majestic way. And in order to do that, I get to own these things, like if I'm uniting with people in light, the honesty and me owning like
yeah,
what's really going on and who I really am is important. That's a part of it. I can't create in majesty and love and light if I'm not owning these things within myself.
yeah. Or at least, I mean, look, I think, yeah, or at least, you know, when they come up,
Yeah,
owning them, right? You know, I think
exactly.
we all have things that maybe we don't see yet, we don't know yet, we don't realize are
Yeah,
there yet, you know. But when they do, you know, then you own them and
you
you
do.
acknowledge them and you work, you know, you do the work, whatever that is.